The quiet man in the corner. It was a warm Monday morning in Los Angeles when Keanu Reeves quietly stepped into a modest boxing gym on the east side of town. There was no red carpet, no flashing cameras, no screaming fans. Just the scent of sweat, old leather, and chalk dust floating through the air. The gym wasn't fancy, it wasn't meant to be. It was a place where real fighters came to push their limits day after day. Keanu didn't come in with a swagger. He wore a plain hoodie, some faded joggers, and a pair of worn-out sneakers. He nodded respectfully to the front desk guy, signed the waiver, and quietly made his way to a bench in the corner. His eye scanned the room, not in judgment but in curiosity. He watched the fighters spar, shadow box, and work the heavy bags. But despite his quiet nature, his arrival didn't go unnoticed. In the center ring, a loud, muscular man named Trent Barkley caught sight of him. Trent was a local amateur champion. He had fast hands, a louder mouth, and a reputation for belittling anyone who didn't fit his mold. And today, Trent had an audience. A few gym regulars, some young trainees, and a local vlogger filming content. Trent smirked and motioned toward Keanu with his glove. "Hey, look who's here," he said, loud enough for the whole gym to hear. "John Wick wants boxing lessons." A few people chuckled. Keanu looked up slowly, not angry, not embarrassed, just still. He nodded once at Trent and looked away. His focus returned to the trainer demonstrating footwork to a younger fighter. He didn't come here for attention. He came to train, to learn, to sweat like everyone else. But Trent wasn't done. "What's the matter, Hollywood? Cat got your tongue?" Trent shouted again, stepping off the ring. "Or are you worried you'll break a nail?" Keanu stood up quietly and walked over to the far side, picking up some hand wraps. He began wrapping his hands the way an experienced fighter would. Neat, tight, purposeful. It was clear he'd done this before. Maybe not in a ring, but somewhere. The trainer, a grizzled older man named Luis, watched him with mild interest. "You've boxed before?" Luis asked, voice low. "Some training. For a film." "But I wanted to feel the real thing," Keanu replied softly. Luis nodded. "Real thing can break more than bones. It can break ego. You ready for that?" Keanu smiled faintly. "That's why I'm here." In the background, Trent wasn't letting go. He started shadowboxing in Keanu's direction, throwing exaggerated punches, grunting like a clown and making sure everyone in the gym was watching. "Come on, John Wick. Show me that movie magic," he taunted. Keanu remained focused. He hit the bag lightly, working on rhythm. It wasn't flashy, but it was precise. There was control in every motion. The gym quieted a bit as some of the trainees started noticing. His form was clean, his balance steady. Even his breathing was controlled. Trent, now irritated that he wasn't getting the laughs he wanted, marched over. "How about a quick round, Hollywood, just a friendly one. 1 minute, you hit me, I'll shut up, I hit you." "Well, I will anyway." Keanu paused, glanced at Luis and asked, "Is it okay?" Luis hesitated. He didn't like putting people in danger, even for ego's sake. But he also knew sometimes a lesson had to be taught the hard way. "Headgear, gloves, light sparring only," Luis warned. "No showboating." Trent chuckled and said, Yeah, light sparring. Got it." The whole gym gathered around. Even the receptionist came out to watch. Keanu stepped into the ring with quiet grace. No trash talk. No warming up the crowd. Just focus. Trent bounced on his feet, shaking out his arms like a peacock showing feathers. Ding! The bell rang. Trent lunged forward with a quick jab, testing Keanu's speed. Keanu slipped it effortlessly. Then a second jab, also dodged. The gym went silent. Trent threw a right cross, stronger this time. Keanu ducked under it with a graceful sway of the shoulders. He didn't counter. He didn't hit back. He simply kept moving. Trent, now frustrated, charged in with a combination. That's when it happened. Keanu stepped inside with perfect timing, turning his hips and delivering a single, sharp right hook to Trent's jaw. The sound echoed. Thump. Trent stumbled back, dropped to one knee, dazed. Luis immediately stepped in and held up a hand. "That's enough." The gym was frozen. Trent's ego had left the building, and Keanu stood still, looking almost apologetic. He offered his glove and said, "You okay?" Trent blinked, nodded, and took the glove. There were no cheers. Just silence. The kind of silence that came when people realized they had misjudged someone badly. Keanu walked to his corner, removed his gloves, and sat back down. He didn't smirk. He didn't gloat. He just picked up his water bottle and took a sip, and slowly people began to walk up to him, not as fans, but as students. One by one they asked questions, about focus, about breathing, about life, and he answered each one with quiet patience. What happened in that gym wasn't about ego. It was about humility, control, and respect. It was a reminder that true strength doesn't need to shout, and sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one you should never underestimate. The lesson behind the silence the next day, the gym felt different. People walked in whispering. Not about Trent's bruised ego, but about the quiet man in the hoodie who moved like water and struck like thunder. Word had spread fast, not just through the gym, but across local fitness circles, fight forums, and even a few Hollywood gossip sites. Keanu arrived early again. He wasn't hiding, but he also wasn't seeking anything more than what he came for: training. He nodded to Luis, gave a polite smile to the receptionist, and began wrapping his hands. But this time no one laughed. No one taunted. Instead, a young man named Danny, maybe 20, nervous and wide-eyed, walked over to him holding a pair of gloves. Excuse me, sir, would you mind showing me that slip you did yesterday?" Keanu looked up, surprised. He motioned toward the bag. "Sure, let's work on timing first." As they began training, more eyes drifted toward them. Danny struggled at first. His punches were wild, his feet uneven. But Keanu didn't flinch. He adjusted Danny's shoulders, slowed his rhythm, and explained everything gently. "It's not about hitting hard," he said. "It's about knowing when not to." Luis watched all this from a distance. The old coach had seen thousands of fighters. Some were loud and fast and hungry. Others were disciplined, respectful, and slow-burning. But few could do what Keanu just did, earn respect without saying a word. By noon, Keanu had unintentionally become an unofficial trainer. A small crowd formed, watching him demonstrate footwork, talk about breathing, and explain how tension in the shoulders slowed you down. He never spoke like he was better. He never mentioned his movies, and he never mentioned the punch that floored Trent. But others did. By midweek, a vlogger who had captured the sparring clip secretly uploaded it online. Within 12 hours, the video had over 4 million views. Titled, "Keanu Reeves Drops Loudmouth Boxer with One Clean Shot." It was trending across social media. Comments flooded in. "This is why you never mess with humble people. He's more John Wick in real life than in the movies. Silent, focused, deadly, legend." Keanu, of course, didn't know yet. He was still helping Danny in the gym, correcting his jab. He was still cleaning his sweat off the bag. He was still thanking the cleaning staff before leaving. But outside, the storm was building. Trent returned on Friday. His jaw was fine. His pride, less so. But to everyone's surprise, he wasn't angry. He walked up to Keanu during a break and extended his glove. "Hey, I was a jerk. I wanted to make a name off you. Shouldn't have done that." Keanu stood slowly, accepted the glove, and said, "It takes strength to admit that." Trent smiled weakly. "Could you, maybe, show me that right hook?" The gym quieted for a moment. Then Luis clapped loudly from the back. "All right, let's make this a class then," he called out. And just like that, the gym turned into a lesson ground. Keanu didn't teach like a celebrity. He taught like someone who had struggled before. Someone who had failed, gotten up, and found purpose through pain. He spoke about training on cold sets, of learning moves over and over until muscle memory replaced fear. He talked about patience, how the body takes time to trust itself, and he spoke about why he came to the gym in the first place. "In movies," he said, "you get a second take. In real life, you don't. That's why I'm here. To learn it for real." Luis leaned against the ropes, arms crossed, eyes thoughtful. Most come here to prove something to others, he whispered to one of his trainers. This guy? He's here to prove something to himself. That weekend, national TV shows picked up the viral video. Talk shows mentioned it. Celebrities tweeted about it. Memes flooded timelines. But back in the gym, Keanu ignored it all. He helped Danny fix his stance. He fetched ice packs for a kid with sore knuckles. He brought in protein bars to share with those who couldn't afford a post-workout meal. And, the most important thing he did? He listened. He listened to the trainer who lost his son last year and still showed up every day. He listened to the immigrant father working 2 jobs who came at night just to keep fit. He listened to the overweight girl too scared to hit the bag because someone once called her weak. He listened, and they saw him not as a movie star but as someone real. Someone who understood. Keanu Reeves, the actor, faded. In his place stood Keanu, the man who knew what it meant to be broken and how to rebuild. But the calm wouldn't last long, because outside the gym, a different kind of attention was growing, and someone from Keanu's past, someone with old grudges and an agenda, had just seen the video. They were coming, not to train, not to learn, but to tear down everything he had built with silence and humility. A shadow from the past. By Monday, the gym had a new energy. There were more people coming in now. Some wanted to train, others just wanted to catch a glimpse of Keanu. Even the local news sent a reporter to ask a few questions. Luis turned them away, firmly saying, "This is a gym, not a circus." Keanu was thankful for that. He wasn't here to be famous. He was here to feel real again, grounded, human. The heavy bag didn't care about your box office numbers. The mirror didn't lie when your stance was off. And the sweat, no one could fake that. But as the cameras faded, something else crept in. An unfamiliar car parked across the street. Tinted windows. It had been there for hours. No one got out. No one went in, but it watched. Always parked, always still. Luis noticed it first. "You know that car?" he asked Keanu during their water break. Keanu glanced at it, eyes narrowing slightly. "No, but I think it knows me." He didn't say anything more. But that night, he walked, home faster. And when he reached his apartment, he stood still in the dark entryway, just listening. The world outside was changing, and something told him the past wasn't done with him yet. 2 days later it happened. Keanu had just finished sparring with Trent. Yes, the same Trent. Now humble, now improving, now listening. Their sparring was real, respectful, and mutual. But as Keanu was helping Danny wrap his hands afterward, a loud voice broke the silence. "I thought you were done pretending to be a fighter, Reeves." The whole gym turned. Standing in the doorway was a man no one recognized. Tall, broad, rough-looking. He wore a dark coat, a crooked smile, and eyes filled with something darker. Keanu's. Shoulders tensed. "Darius," he said softly. Luis walked over quickly. "Can I help you?" The man smirked. "I'm here to remind this Hollywood toy what real pain feels like." Keanu stepped forward, calm but alert. "You don't belong here, Darius." But Darius just laughed. "Don't I? I trained you once, remember? Back when you thought you could survive in real gyms, before the stunts, before the fame, before you quit." The room froze. No one had ever heard Keanu talk about his past in real fighting. And now this stranger had dropped a bomb. Darius kept talking. "This man ran from the real fight, ran from me. From the moment things got hard, he disappeared." Trent stepped in. "Hey man, we don't talk to each other like that here," Darius sneered. "And who are you? His little student?" Trent didn't flinch. "No, just someone who respects what he teaches." Keanu raised a hand. "It's okay." He looked directly at Darius. "What do you want?" Darius smiled. "A match. Just you and me. No cameras, no rules, just like old times. Let's see if you've still got a spine under that Hollywood shell." Keanu didn't answer right away. He could feel the weight of every eye in the room. But Luis spoke up. "No, not in my gym. This isn't a place for violence. It's for learning." Darius laughed coldly. "Learning? You're all children here." Keanu stepped closer. If you want to talk, we talk outside. Not here. But Darius wasn't done causing damage. He stepped toward Danny and smacked the training pads out of his hands. This kid's learning from you? You're gonna get him hurt. Keanu moved fast. He didn't hit Darius, he didn't raise a fist, but he stepped between them like a wall of stone. Leave him alone. And for a moment, Darius hesitated. Then, as if realizing he was being watched, he pulled back, smirking. You've gone soft. And he left. No one spoke for a long moment. Finally, Danny said, "Who was that?" Keanu sighed and sat down, wiping his face with a towel. "An old mistake," he said. "From a part of my life I thought I left behind." That night, Keanu walked alone again, but this time he didn't feel calm. The streets felt colder, darker, and with every step he remembered why he left that underground circuit so long ago, years before Hollywood, before John Wick, before fame. There was a time Keanu had entered real fight gyms, not to train for a role, but to train for survival. He was grieving, lost after personal tragedy, and fighting gave him something real to feel. Darius was his trainer then, and Darius was brutal. He didn't teach with wisdom. He taught with punishment. He believed breaking people made them strong, and Keanu had walked away. Not because he was weak, but because he wanted to be something more than just a weapon. But now, Darius was back, and he wanted a fight not for sport, but for revenge. Back at the gym, Luis waited by the door after closing. Keanu came back to pick up his gloves. "You okay?" Luis asked. Keanu nodded. "I'm not afraid of him, but I don't want his poison in this place." Luis leaned on the counter. "Then don't bring it in. Settle it outside, but only if it has to be settled." Keanu looked down at his gloves. What if walking away isn't enough this time? Luis paused, then said something quiet. "Then maybe this time, you don't walk away. But you fight for the right reason. Not to hurt him, but to protect who you've become." Keanu didn't respond, but deep inside something settled. A decision was forming. And soon Darius would learn something he never understood. When you fight a man who's lost everything and rebuilt himself with humility, focus, and grace, you're not fighting muscle, you're fighting purpose. The challenge that changed everything the next morning, the gym door opened before sunrise. Keanu was already there, lacing up his shoes, wrapping his hands slowly, not because he was rushing, but because he knew something was coming. Something that would test more than just his skill. It would test everything he'd worked to become. Luis came in next, holding 2 coffees. "Figured you'd be here," Luis said, handing him one. Keanu took it, gave a grateful nod. They didn't say much, they didn't need to. By noon, the gym felt different. Eyes kept darting toward the door. Not from fear, but anticipation. Everyone knew Darius would return, but no one knew how far he'd go. Keanu didn't speak about it. Instead, he trained with Danny. He corrected Trent's footwork. He showed a teenage girl how to shift her balance without wasting energy. He kept everything normal, but tension clung to the air like smoke. And then, just after lunch, the door opened again. Darius entered, but he wasn't alone. 2 men followed him. One held a camera. The other was live streaming on his phone. Darius smiled like a man walking into a show. "Hope you're ready," he said, his voice loud. "Because the world's watching." Keanu turned slowly. "You brought cameras?" Darius grinned. "You went viral, right? Let's give the people a real show. You and me, 1 round, no mercy." The gym buzzed with murmurs. Luis stepped forward. "Get those cameras out of here. This isn't a circus." Darius held up a hand. "Relax, coach. I'm doing your boy a favor. This is his redemption arc." Keanu stayed quiet, but his eyes locked on Darius. Then calmly he said, "You want to fight?" Darius raised an eyebrow. "You finally grew a backbone?" Keanu stepped closer. 1 round, 3 minutes. Regulation gloves, regulation rules. No dirty tricks. Darius chuckled. Deal. But I'll knock you out in one. Keanu looked at Luis. The old coach sighed. I hate this. But if it ends it, I'll allow it. But if anyone breaks the rules, I end it right there. Trent turned to Keanu, concern on his face. You sure about this, man? Keanu gave him a soft smile. Some fights, you don't choose. But you still show up. The gym prepared fast. A crowd started to form, not just members, but people who had seen the viral clip and wanted to witness what came next. The camera guy set up in a corner. Luis had no choice but to allow one camera, as long as it stayed out of the way. Everyone gathered around the ring. Keanu sat quietly in the corner, taping his wrists again, adjusting his gloves. He closed his eyes. He didn't think about Hollywood. He didn't think about revenge. He thought about the girl who trained with him last week, how she smiled when she landed her first clean jab. He thought about Danny's shaky hands when he started, and the pride in his eyes now. He thought about Luis, the man who believed in him not for his fame but for his heart. He was fighting to protect that. Ready? Luis asked, placing the mouthguard in his hand. Keanu nodded. Darius stepped into the ring like a showman waving to the crowd. Someone clapped. Someone else whispered, I hope Keanu floors him. The bell rang. The first 10 seconds were slow. Darius circled, testing Keanu's movement. He jabbed twice, fast, sharp, but nothing landed. Keanu stayed centered. Then Darius launched a quick right hook, fast, nasty. It clipped Keanu's shoulder, enough to show his power. The crowd gasped, but Keanu didn't back down. He ducked, weaved, and stepped in close, tapping Darius with a quick body shot. Not hard, not meant to hurt, meant to say, I'm here. Darius growled and attacked again. Left, right, uppercut. Keanu dodged the first, blocked the second, and spun out of the third. The motion was smooth. Too smooth. Someone in the crowd whispered, He's dancing in there. But Darius was relentless. He wanted a knockout, not a win. With a humiliation, he swung wide and made a mistake. Keanu slipped under, stepped inside, and delivered a clean left hook to the ribs. The sound cracked through the gym. Darius stumbled. Keanu didn't chase. He waited. Darius recovered quickly, but his eyes had changed. He wasn't laughing anymore. Now it was personal. He lunged again, reckless, angry. Keanu dodged, then stepped in with a right. Not wild, not cinematic, just perfectly timed. The punch landed square on Darius's jaw. His knees buckled, his body dropped. Flat. Silent. The crowd froze. It had taken less than 2 minutes. Luis shouted, That's it! He jumped into the ring, checking Darius. Darius was conscious but dazed. He sat up slowly, blinking, groaning. And Keanu. He just stood there, breathing steady. Hands by his sides. He didn't celebrate. He didn't taunt. He simply stepped back, removed his gloves, and knelt beside Darius. You okay? Darius nodded. Barely. Keanu offered him a hand. And this time, Darius took it. Silence washed over the gym. Then someone started clapping, then another. Soon the whole room applauded. Not just the victory, but the way he handled it. Calm, controlled, respectful. Trent climbed into the ring, handed Keanu a towel. That was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, he whispered. Keanu just nodded, then turned to the camera guy still filming. You got what you needed? The man lowered his camera and said, Honestly, yeah. But this wasn't about the fight. This was something else. Keanu turned to Luis. Can we get back to training now? Luis smiled wide, gladly. And just like that, the noise faded, and the gym returned to what it was meant to be. A place of growth, of healing, of purpose. Outside, the video would go viral. Again, the headlines would scream, Keanu Reeves knocks out real fighter and helps him back up, but inside that little gym, Keanu had already won something far greater. The boy with the broken shoes. It had been 3 days since the fight. The video had spread across every platform imaginable, not just because Keanu dropped Darius with a single punch, but because of what happened after. The moment when he reached out a hand, helped the man who once humiliated him, and reminded the world that kindness still existed in places filled with sweat and ego. People from all over the country started calling the gym. Some wanted memberships, others wanted interviews, but Keanu avoided all of it. He came in every morning like nothing had changed. He still mopped the floor before warm-ups. He still trained the young kids with shaky hands and unsure feet. He still left quietly after his sessions. But on a quiet Thursday afternoon, a different kind of visitor arrived. He was small, maybe 10 or 11. Skinny, pale, with wide eyes and a nervous grip on his tattered backpack. His shoes were too big and torn at the soles. One was held together with duct tape. He stood just inside the entrance, holding a flyer with Keanu's picture on it. It was from the fight video. Keanu was on the heavy bag when he noticed him. He paused, wiped his face, and walked over. "Hey there," he said gently. "You looking for someone?" The boy looked up, blinking fast. He looked like he wanted to run, but didn't. "I saw you on the video, the one where you hit that big guy, and then helped him up." Keanu crouched a little to match his height. "Yeah, that was me." "Was it real?" the boy whispered. "Or like a movie?" Keanu smiled. "It was real. No script, just truth." The boy hesitated, then said, "Can anyone join this place?" Keanu tilted his head. "Anyone who wants to grow." The boy looked down at his shoes. "I don't have money, or gloves, or anything." Keanu looked at him, really looked. And behind the fear, he saw something familiar. A quiet pain, a need to belong. He stood up, offered his hand. "What's your name?" "Marco." "All right, Marco. Come with me." Within minutes, Marco was sitting on the edge of the ring while Keanu showed him how to wrap his hands with spare tape. Luis watched from a distance. He didn't interrupt. He just smiled. Trent passed by and tossed a pair of clean, lightly used gloves next to Marco. "They're yours now, kid," he said, ruffling Marco's hair. Marco beamed, but his smile didn't last long because as he tried his first few jabs on the mitts, he winced. Keanu noticed instantly. "What's wrong?" Marco hesitated, then lifted his shirt. His ribs were bruised. Old bruises. Not from a fall, not from training. Keanu's heart dropped. "Who did this?" he asked softly. Marco looked away. "My mom's boyfriend. He gets mad, throws things. Sometimes..." He didn't finish. Keanu sat beside him, quiet for a moment, then said, "You don't have to stay in places that hurt you." Marco looked at him, eyes wide. "Where would I go?" Keanu stood up, walked to Luis, and whispered something. Within an hour, a social worker, one of Luis's old contacts, was at the gym. Not police. Not strangers. Someone who cared. Someone who knew how to handle this with care. While they talked with Marco in the office, Keanu stayed outside, leaning against the wall, fists clenched, not from anger, but helplessness. Luis came over. "You did good," he said. "I didn't do enough," Keanu replied. But that night, after Marco was taken to a safe shelter, something changed in Keanu. He came back to the gym the next morning, earlier than ever, and brought with him 2 duffel bags. Inside were gloves, shoes, gear, protein snacks, notebooks. He called it the Marco box and placed it near the front. Above it, he wrote in marker, "For anyone who needs a chance." Within a week, more kids came. Some from shelters, some from the street, some just lost. They came because they saw something in that video, not the punch, but the compassion. And they saw a man who didn't wear a crown, but lifted others. The gym transformed. The walls stayed the same, but the energy inside shifted. Now there were children laughing, young teens training seriously, single moms watching proudly, and in the center of it all was Keanu. He didn't run the gym. He didn't take credit. but he became its heart. And still, through all of this, Darius didn't disappear. He returned a week after the fight, this time with no cameras, no entourage. He came alone, to say something he never thought he'd say. "You were right to walk away back then," he said. "I thought pain was power. But watching you, I realized I was just spreading the pain I never healed from." Keanu looked at him. "You still can change." Darius nodded. "I want to help. If you'll let me." Keanu paused, then offered a glove. "Help a kid who feels broken. Start there." Darius took it, and just like that, a new chapter began. Not just for the gym, not just for Darius, but for every soul who walked through those doors looking for strength and found something better. Hope. When the world came knocking, weeks passed. The gym, once just another concrete room with bags, ropes, and sweat-stained mats, had become something more. A sanctuary, a community, a place where pain could be shaped into power. Not through violence, but through love, discipline, and dignity. The Marco box had grown into a corner now. People began sending shoes, gloves, even books. Local businesses donated supplies. A carpenter built new shelves. A teacher from the neighborhood came every Saturday to help kids with schoolwork before training. Keanu never called attention to himself. He didn't put his name on anything, didn't speak to the press. Every time someone came asking for interviews, he'd gently smile and say, "Talk to the kids. They're the story." But the world kept watching. His quiet actions had sparked something global. A major news station finally aired a short documentary about the gym. Within hours, donations poured in from around the world. A billionaire anonymously covered a year's worth of rent for the gym. A foundation offered to fund an after-school program. Even Hollywood, directors reached out offering to help tell the story. But Keanu still came every morning, still trained quietly in the corner. Until one afternoon, the boy returned. Marco. This time he wasn't wearing broken shoes. His clothes were clean, his eyes brighter. He ran into the gym and straight into Keanu's arms. "They said I can stay with a foster family that likes boxing," Marco said with a huge smile. "They saw the video. They want to bring me here every week." Keanu knelt down, holding back emotion. "You're not just a fighter now, Marco," he whispered. "You're an example." Luis stood nearby, watching. "You good?" he asked Keanu later, when the gym was quiet again. Keanu looked around at the walls. He saw Trent helping a girl work on her jab. He saw Darius quietly showing a shy boy how to hold his stance. He saw laughter, growth, sweat, healing. And then he looked at Luis. "I came here to train, to escape, to be no one," Keanu said. Luis nodded. "You became someone instead." A few days later, something unexpected happened. A limousine pulled up outside the gym. Two assistants stepped out, followed by a sharply dressed man. Behind them, a famous Hollywood executive, the kind that could greenlight movies with a single phone call. They entered the gym and asked for Keanu. He was teaching breathing techniques to a group of nervous teenagers. When he saw them, he stood up slowly. "We've been trying to reach you," the executive said. "The world wants to know this story. A film, a docuseries, something huge, inspirational. You can be the face of it." Keanu stayed quiet. "We'll give you full control. Here terms. We'll donate profits to the gym. Just say yes." He looked around again. At the kids, at the walls, at the Marco box. And then, he spoke softly. "Only if it tells the truth." The executive blinked. "Sorry? Not my story. Their story. I'm not the hero here." And just like that, he agreed. But under one condition. No scripts, no fakes, no actors pretending to cry in corners. Just real people, real pain, real hope. Months later, the first teaser for the project aired online, footage of Marco hitting the pads with fire in his eyes, Danny landing clean combinations after months of fear, Trent coaching younger kids, Darius crying quietly after, training a boy who reminded him of his younger self, and Keanu in the background, wrapping a kid's hand slowly, gently, like it was the most important job in the world. The world watched. Not in silence this time, but in awe. A man once mocked in a gym had built something sacred from a single punch. But the truth? The punch didn't define the story. The hand that lifted Darius up did. On the 1-year anniversary of the day Keanu first walked into the gym, there was no celebration. No banners, just the usual crowd. Kids learning, friends laughing, sweat on the mats. Luis walked over to Keanu during a break. Still training? Keanu smirked. Still learning. Still humble. Keanu wiped his face, tossed the towel over his shoulder and looked around one more time, then said something quiet. We never really win by punching someone down. Luis raised a brow. No, Keanu replied. We win by helping them stand back up. And with that, he stepped into the ring again, not to fight, but to teach. And somewhere in the back, Marco laced up his gloves, waiting for his turn. He smiled, because he knew. This wasn't a gym anymore. It was home.